Over the past two videos, we have been looking at some issues that have wounded our people. We looked at the cultural wound first, that is colorism, the belief placed inside an entire people that the skin they were born in needed to be changed. 300,000 Jamaicans bleaching their skin in a country that is 92% black. That is a cultural wound. Then we looked at the family wound, intergenerational trauma, the survival code forged on a plantation, passed from parent to child, the generations, arriving in homes before you were old enough to question it. That is a family wound. Today we are going deeper. Today we are looking at the institutional wound, the one that was given the most authority, the one that had the most access to your mind from the earliest age, the one that told you with the full weight of God behind it exactly who you were supposed to be and how you were supposed to live. We are talking about the church, and I want to be clear before we go one step further. This is not a video against God. This is a video about the difference between God and the institution that was built in God's name. That difference matters. And in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, that difference has never been examined the way it needs to be. This is Jamaican soul medicine, and today we are looking into the institutional wound. Let us start with history. Because the church did not arrive in Jamaica as a gift. It arrived as a tool. When the British colonized Jamaica, they brought Christianity with them, not primarily as spiritual liberation, but as social control. The theology they taught the enslaved people was specifically selected and specifically designed. It emphasized obedience, suffering, patience, the reward of heaven for those who endured their earthly condition without resistance. Slaves, obey your masters. That is in the Bible, and that verse was preached deliberately, repeatedly to people in chains, not as a historical text, as a present instruction. The enslaved people were told that their condition was God's will, that resistance was sin, that their liberation would come, but only after death, only in heaven, only if they were faithful and obedient in this life. Think about what that theology does to a people. It takes the most natural human impulse, which is the desire to be free, and reframes it as spiritual rebellion. It makes the oppressed person complicit in their own oppression. It gets them to police themselves, to discipline their own desire for freedom in the name of God. That was not an accident. That was architecture. Colonial spiritual architecture designed to manage a population that outnumbered the colonizers 10-1. The colonizers are gone. The architecture is still standing. Before the church arrived in Jamaica, there were African spiritual traditions brought by enslaved people from across West and Central Africa. Yoruba traditions, Akan traditions, Fon traditions. These were not primitive superstitions. These were sophisticated systems of understanding the world, understanding the self, the ancestors, and the divine. They survived in Jamaica, underground, disguised, renamed. These traditions carried African spiritual knowledge through the most brutal conditions imaginable, because the people who held them understood that a people without spiritual roots are a people without resistance. The colonial church did not just bring a new religion, it systematically demonized the old ones. African spiritual practice was labeled evil, satanic, dangerous. The practitioners were persecuted. The traditions were driven underground. And the people, already traumatized, already stripped of language and homeland and family, We're told that the only path to God ran through the colonial church, that their ancestors' way of knowing the divine was wrong, that it was darkness, that it was something to be ashamed of and abandoned. That was a second theft. The first theft was the body, bringing people to Jamaica in chains. The second theft was the spirit, replacing their connection to the divine with a version of God that required their compliance. Now I want to be careful here because I am not saying every Jamaican church is the same. I am not saying every pastor has bad intentions. I'm saying that institutions carry their origins in their DNA, and the Jamaican church was born in a colonial context that shaped what it teaches, how it teaches, and who it serves. Look at what is still being preached in many Jamaican churches today. Suffer in silence. God is testing you. Your poverty is a spiritual condition. Give more to the church and God will bless you financially. Do not question the pastor. He speaks for God. Your ancestors' spiritual practices are demonic. Now ask yourself, who benefits from a congregation that suffers in silence, gives their money to the institution, does not question authority, and is taught that their ancestral heritage is evil? The theology of endurance, the belief that suffering is holy, that patience will be rewarded, that your liberation exists only after death, that theology kept people on the plantation, and a version of it is still running in Jamaican churches today. Not because the pastors are evil, but because the institution absorbed that theology at its founding and never fully examined it. A church that was built to manage enslaved people will, without conscious reformation, continue to manage people. The tool does not know the plantation is gone. For the diaspora, for the Jamaican living in UK, Canada, the United States, the church was often the first community you had in a new country. It was warmth. It was familiarity. It was Jamaica in a foreign land. And for that, it deserves genuine gratitude. Community in exile is not a small thing. But many of you left the church years ago and are still carrying the guilt, still hearing the voice that says your questioning is rebellion, still feeling the shame around your ancestral curiosity, still believing that at some level that examining the institution is the same as rejecting God. It is not. Those are two completely different things. And the fact that they feel the same to you is evidence of how thorough the conditioning was. You can love God and question the institution. You can have deep faith and reject colonial theology. You can honor the Creator and reclaim your ancestral spiritual heritage at the same time. These are not contradictions. They only feel like contradictions because the institution told you they were. So what is the difference between the obedience the church produced and the freedom it was supposed to offer? Obedience keeps you small so the institution stays large. It requires you to suppress your questions, your doubts, your ancestral memory, your natural desire for liberation, and call that suppression faithfulness. Freedom. Real spiritual freedom makes you larger. It opens you. It welcomes your questions because truth does not fear examination. It connects you to your ancestors because a God who created those ancestors cannot be threatened by you honoring them. It puts you on your feet rather than keeping you on your knees. Real faith does not keep you on your knees. Real faith puts you on your feet. The Creator that your West African ancestors knew before the slave ship, before the plantation, before the colonial church, that Creator did not require their silence. did not require their compliance, did not tell them their heritage was evil. That Creator was in the land, in the ancestors, in the community, in the rhythm of life itself. That knowing was not destroyed. It went underground. It survived in the music, in the rhythm, in the way Jamaicans move and pray and grieve and celebrate. It is still there, waiting for you to stop calling it demonic and start recognizing it as yours. 3 videos, 3 wounds. The cultural wound that told you your skin was wrong. The family wound that passed down a survival code nobody chose. And the institutional wound that replaced your ancestral connection to the divine with a theology of compliance. These are not separate wounds. They are 3 expressions of the same original violence. They attempt to make a people forget who they were so they could be used as who the system needed them to be. But here's what the system never accounted for. The soul remembers. You can take the land, you can take the name, you can take the language, you can replace the religion, but the soul remembers what it came from. And that memory is what we are excavating here. 1 video, 1 wound, 1 truth at a time. If this message reached you, share it with one person who is still carrying the institutional wound. Not to start an argument, but to open a door. Subscribe to Jamaican Soul Medicine. This is ancestral truth, spiritual liberation, and the reprogramming needed to break free from mental slavery. The work continues.